Shall we start, sir?
Just a few minutes. Keynote speaker is yet to join.
Okay, sir.
Good morning, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Just few minutes, sir. We will start our session.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning, Admiral Patel, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I grew up with an engineer. My father is from BHU. So I wished him in the morning also.
Very nice. Very happy Engineers Day to everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Same to you, sir.
Everybody is an engineer, whether you are by training or by default. You can't do without engineering. Even putting together words or putting together letters to form word is engineering.
Sir, keynote speaker may join little late. With your permission, can we start our event, sir?
Yeah. Please go on. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think MCs can take over to start.
Shall we start?
Yes, ma'am.
A very good morning to one and all. No one can know the potential of a life that is committed to win. With courage, the challenge it faces to achieve great success in the end. So explore the dimension of greatness and believe that the world can be won by a mind that is fully committed, knowing the task can be done. With these words, I, Dr. Charu Jain, on behalf of Amity University Gurugram, would like to extend a very warm welcome to first National Virtual Conference on Advancements and Modern Innovations in Engineering and Technology, organized by Amity School of Engineering and Technology, Amity University Gurgaon, on the auspicious morning of Engineers Day. We salute to all the engineers across the globe for their great ideas and innovations that has truly changed our lives. I would now like to begin the inaugural session by expressing my gratitude to the presence of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. P.B. Sharma, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, Honorable Director ESSEC and General Chair of the conference, Professor Dr. S.N. Sridhara. And now, on behalf of entire Amity fraternity, I would like to take this opportunity to extend a cordial welcome to our revered guest of the honor, Sri R.K. Vyas, President, Computer Society of India, Dr. Arvind Sharma, Regional Vice President, Computer Society of India, Dr. Brajesh, Chairman, Computer Society of India, Gurgaon Chapter. And finally, we welcome all the esteemed dignitaries, the conference participants present here, and each and every member of the esteemed virtual audience. It is indeed a pleasure to have you all here today. Light is considered as a symbol of auspiciousness and prosperity, as we have a shlok in Sanskrit that says, Shubham karoti kalyanam, arogyam dhana sampada, Shatru buddhi vinashaye, deep jyotir namostute. As it is the customary practice at Amity University of offering prayers to Ma Saraswati on all auspicious occasions, let us begin the conference with the lamp lighting ceremony.
Kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhana sampada
Thank you, Akshay. To begin with, we would like to have the pleasure to introduce Professor Dr. S.N. Sridhara, Director, Amity School of Engineering and Technology and General Chair of the conference. Dr. Sridhara received his master's and PhD degree in aerospace engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He worked in various engineering and technological institutes and has a total experience of 31 years with positions held from lecturer to professor and dean. He has also served as a governing council member for several institutes and has served as executive council member in Visvarya Technological University, a government university in Karnataka. His research interests are green energy, thermal engineering, computational fluid dynamics, robotics, artificial intelligence, and education administration processes. With these words, may I now request Professor Dr. S.N. Sridhara to please deliver the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
You're muted, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Jain, and good morning, all of you. Welcome to the inaugural session of Online National Conference on Advancements and Modern Innovations in Engineering and Technology, AMIET 2020. This conference is organized with the blessings of Honorable Founder President Dr. Ashok K. Chavan and Honorable Chancellor Dr. Asim Chavan, sir. This conference is a tribute to Bharat Ratna Shri Sir M. Visvesvaraya, a great engineer of the century that India has produced, and his birthday 15 September, he is commemorated as Engineers Day in India, Sri Lanka and Tanzania. Sir M. Visvesvaraya was born in a remote village in Karnataka in 1860 and raised to be recognized as great engineer of the century. He was knighted as the Knight Commander of British Indian Empire, KSIC, by King George V for his contributions for public good. He received the India's highest order, Bharat Ratna, in 1955. The irrigation dams and automatic sluice gates were designed and commissioned in India and Sri Lanka for the first time by Sir M.V. Sir M.V. was also inducted as Diwan of Mysore State by then the King of Mysore, and he led an eventful life of 101 years. The main objectives of this conference, AMIET 2020, is to provide a platform for research scholars, faculty, and working professionals to meet virtually and exchange their innovations, research outputs, and new learnings through presentation of research papers and posters. Research papers related to engineering and technological innovations in all subdivisions of engineering were invited across the country. A good response was received from all corners of nation, and a total of more than 150 papers were submitted. These papers were scrutinized for checking the similarity content and were subjected to blindfolded double peer review process. Finally, 70 research papers which incorporated the review suggestions are included in the presentations and proceedings of the conference. The conference is being organized through online presentations and discussions to keep connected even during pandemic time of COVID-19. The quality and wide range of topics of papers presented in this virtual conference are indicators of spirit of Indian scholars who made the best use of unprecedented lockdowns to keep the creativity at peak. We have received papers from Kashmir in the north to Karnataka in the south. We also have few invited papers from Australia and South Africa. For this event, I welcome Honorable Vice Chancellor of AUH, Professor Dr. P.B. Sharma, who is a source of inspiration and motivator for all of us at AUH. I also welcome Dr. Anand Tripathi, Director General of National Institute of Solar Energy, the keynote speaker of this conference. I welcome Major General B.S. Sugak, Deputy Vice Chancellor of AUH, who is instrumental in providing the required support for all activities in the campus. I welcome Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, the Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean of Academics at AUH. Madam is the advocate of power of positivity and optimism. I also welcome Dr. Gunjan Sanji, Vice President RBEF and Director International Education Cell of AUH and Professor of Finance. I welcome Professor Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Dean of Research for this event. I also welcome Honorable dignitaries from CSI, Sri R.K. Vas, CSI National President, Dr. Arvind Sharma, Regional Vice President, CSI, Dr. Brijesh, Chairman, CSI, Gurgaon Chapter, and we are thankful to them for providing technical sponsorship for the conference AMIET 2020. The panel of advisory board were instrumental in uplifting the quality of the conference. I welcome the advisory board members for this inaugural event, and I also welcome the chairs of technical sessions for this event. I welcome Registrar, Director of HR, all HOIs and HODs of AUH for this inaugural event. My appreciations are to the members of Organization Committee of AMIET 2020 for their dedicated services and involvement in giving professional touch to the entire process of organizing the conference. I thank all the authors and presenters of these research papers for their enthusiastic participation in the conference and welcome all of them to this event. I once again welcome one and all for the inaugural session of AMIT. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. To apprise us more, I would like to introduce our Honorable Professor Dr. P.B. Sharma, Vice Chancellor, Amity University, Gurgaon. Professor Preetham Babu Sharma is an eminent academician, institution builder, currently Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Gurgaon. He has been the founder Vice Chancellor of Delhi Technological University, formerly prestigious Delhi College of Engineering, of which he has been the Director Principal for 20 years. He is also the past President of Association of Indian Universities. Professor Sharma has a career spanning over 51 years of experience in teaching and research, which includes 12 years at IIT Delhi, where he was a professor of mechanical engineering before taking over as principal of Delhi College of Engineering. He led Delhi College of Engineering till 2009 and was then appointed the founder Vice Chancellor of Delhi Technological University. He is also the founding Vice Chancellor of Rajiv Gandhi Technological University, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. A doctorate from University of Birmingham has also been honored in 2013 by his alma mater with the honoris causa degree of Doctor of Engineering in celebration of his academic and research eminence. Professor Sharma is a man of vision and resolve to nurture world quality of education and research, and is known worldwide for his relentless pursuit of innovations, solution research, and excellence. May I request you, sir, to please bless us with your golden words. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Charu. Thank you for the kind words you have spoken about me. Let me take this opportunity at the outset to extend a very warm welcome to our very distinguished and honored guests, the President of Computer Society of India, Professor Dr. R.K. Vyasji, the Director General of National Institute of Solar Energy, Dr. Arun Tripathi ji, other distinguished guests, my own Deputy Vice Chancellor, Major General B.S. Sohag, Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Padma Kali Banerjee, the Conference General Chair Dr. Sridhara, and my esteemed members of the faculty and very dear student friends. Let me at the outset extend to you a very warm welcome to this very important virtual conference being organized by Amity School of Engineering and Technology under the able guidance and directions of Dr. Sridhara, the director of the institute. We could have not chosen a more appropriate day than the 15th of September to celebrate such a momentous occasion, looking at the advancement in modern innovations in engineering and technology on a day so important for a nation like ours. Today is the Engineers' Day, and the whole country, in fact the whole world, must be celebrating the Engineers' Day today in the memory of Sir Mokshgandam Vishveshwaraya, the Bharat Ratna, who has brought tremendous amount of honor and dignity to the profession of engineering and technology by his innovative mind, by his relentless pursuit of excellence in engineering and technology, by his pursuit of multi-dimensional, multidisciplinary engineering during his own lifetime, and making profound contributions to the life of people of India by the marvels which he created on the strength of his innovative genius and engineering excellence. And therefore, on this day, we recall the role of engineers in making the mankind not merely just empowered with tools, gadgets, and machines and mechanisms, but to make the whole mankind march on the path of excellence in a manner that it goes from one ladder of accomplishment to another, acquiring capabilities not merely to mastermind what is there around us, but to make this world a better place for living, for not only for humans, but for all creatures on Mother Earth. This was, in fact, the charter with which Mokshagundam Vishwesvaraya ji, the Bharat Ratna, had worked. The entire life of Sir Vishwesvaraya is the finest example of what can be done on the strength of engineering and technology ingenuity to empower the nation and the society with the layers of activities, programs, and policies by which prosperity and happiness can be created together. And that is why on this day, when we inaugurate an important conference like Advancements and Modern Innovations in Engineering and Technology at our university under the banner of National Virtual Conference, it's very important for each one of us, no matter whether we are in engineering or in allied disciplines of engineering, to remind ourselves that the very purpose of engineering is to empower the humanity with the capabilities of the kind by which we are in a position to assure a high quality of life for our people here on planet Mother Earth today, but also leave for the generations to come to rejoice the accomplishment and achievements which we made. And that is why this conference, in my opinion, today has a great importance, especially now that a new world is being created after COVID pandemic. We all have realized that much of the advancement of science and engineering and technology, which we made during the last few centuries, could not really save us from the disaster of the kind which is created by microbial interventions. Today we call it COVID pandemic. We have realized that man's machines and all the grand designs and structures and architecture and monuments which we create, of course, have a great meaning to give us a glimpse of what can be achieved on the might of technology, but it runs and it falls short of fighting interventions of the kind which are now taking place on the strength of microbial kingdom. And therefore, in the years to come now, we have to focus our attention on engineering and technology of the kind that is more important for living a happy life, a life fulfilled, a life full of divine bliss on planet Mother Earth, a life which can assure, in fact, good health and happiness for people all around. In fact, many centuries of our contributions in engineering and technology have been devoted to acquire capability to conquer nations, to fight with each other with the guns and missiles and armaments of the kind which are required, even to wage space wars if necessary. But that is not what the kind of engineering and technology for which the mankind would be standing from tomorrow onward. And that is why one lesson which we need to learn right at the outset of inauguration of this conference, we can flag this as a major issue, what kind of departures are required today in our innovative and creative thinking to take engineering and technology to new horizons of activities and programs by which humankind on planet Mother Earth could be assured a sustained march on a happy, comfortable, and healthy life. And it is with this kind of agenda we have to look at the current advancement of science and technology as well as engineering, and to look at what can be done tomorrow on the strength of the innovative genius of young people as well as the inspired minds who have made tremendous amount of contributions in the past. Keeping that in mind, I was looking at what have been done so far. If you look at engineering and technology and its march over the last few centuries, naturally it all started with our understanding of science, and science giving us capability to explore this world around in terms of chemistry, physics, and tools of mathematics and analysis, gave us capability to explore the materials which we have, and then we perfected the processes by which these materials can be purified, can be their properties can be enhanced and changed, and composites can be created, alloys can be created, and a whole lot of development in material science and engineering, of course, prompted the way for designing and developing the tools and machines of the kind with which we could really march over the last 2 or 3 centuries with tremendous amount of capabilities and strength. Material science prompted manufacturing technologies. Manufacturing technologies, material science required a whole lot of understanding of analysis and design, manufacturing, and materials together, in fact, propelled the new horizons for engineering and technology for years together. Of course, we were looking at what can be done and what can be done faster, and therefore the speed and the mobility was, of course, a major attention for science and engineering professionals. We achieved great advancement in that. Today, I could fly from Delhi to San Francisco in an aircraft with only 2 engines, one on left and one on the right side, without worrying about refueling it on the way, nor worrying about any amount of risk which may be involved if one of the engines switches off. That's the kind of capabilities we have generated today. You can go to Moon, you can go to Mars, you can also charter several missions to go around the world. All that is fine. But important is, what do you do now to create the capabilities of the kind that would be required for creating a better world tomorrow? That's the question. And therefore, apart from man-machine interface, as well as the automation and artificial intelligence, machine learning of the kind, the virtual realities, which we all are desirous to create, these would of course be required. But their focus of attention would not be to create warfare, would not be to create really the arsenal of the kind that may destroy this world. The focus of attention would be, how could we manage this beautiful world better than what we have done so far? If I could utilize artificial intelligence in managing the traffic of India on roads of NCT Delhi, and also on my highways and expressways, the artificial intelligence would have a big meaning. If I can utilize artificial intelligence and big data analysis for understanding the healthcare facilities which I have and the kind of healthcare facilities which I need to create, it would make a big meaning. It would make a big meaning for machine intelligence and artificial intelligence and automation and robotics if I can understand the environment around and create the kind of interventions that too in time necessary to ensure that the air quality is maintained at the level which provides a healthy living for the people around the world. My artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning, the layers of analysis of data science would have a bigger meaning if I can understand my industrial activity, manage and maneuver it in an intelligent and smart manner so that it creates the least possible penalty on the environment. It is this kind of thinking with which now we have to look at the new advancement which we make in engineering and technology on the strength of the innovative genius of man. Having said this, let me also say that the focus should not be lost on new challenges which are emerging before us. We all know that India is not just India of the cities. Much of the India still remains to be the rural India. And therefore, what can be done today on the strength of advanced, modern, and new innovations to cause the inroad and penetration of advancement and innovation of engineering and technology to create a vibrant rural India, which would be prosperous, which would be happy, and which would be a major strength for the economy of our nation. That is in fact the charter. And that is why we have to look at what can engineering technology innovations can do now to go to rural areas and cause that vital change which we were waiting for the last 73 years of independence. When I grew up, the rural India was very happy India. The quality of water was good. There was no crisis of energy. People were well behaved, and they were, of course, 10 times more healthier than what I am today here in the millennium city of Gurgaon. So you can imagine that the whole engineering and technology which they were practicing at that time by their own hands was primarily geared around to create a happy and healthy habitat for the people over there. They had plenty to eat also at that time. They were, of course, dependent upon nature gods for much of the bliss of nature, but at the same time, they knew how to maneuver and take advantage of the bliss of heavens for creating heaven on earth. Now we have to return back to that, but at the same time with modern tools and innovations of engineering and technology. What can solar energy do in rural India? We have to ask ourselves. What can new innovations of information technology, artificial intelligence and machine learning do to increase the productivity, not only of agriculture, but to cause a new wave of development of food science and food technology, and a whole lot of development of new technologies around which the rural India could become prosperous as well as a happy abode of 70% of people who live over there at the moment. And that is the charter. If we do not look at that, and if we continue to focus our attention merely on the Western thinking of causing automation and advancement of the kind that is happening in Industry 4.0 of today or Industry 5.0 of tomorrow, India would not be a happy India. India would not be an India of our dream, where every Indian would take immense pride in being part and parcel of a country which has given to the world happiness alongside with good health and prosperity in the past. And that is why I think at this inauguration of this very important national virtual conference on advanced and modern innovations in engineering and technology, the theme which has been chosen by Professor Sridhara and his learned chairs of technical sessions, in my opinion, must turn around and ask this searching question. What can the modern advancement of science and technology, what can the innovative genius of man engaged in engineering and technology can do now to provide that vital turning point to make engineering and technology a major friend of humanity, to create those layers of happiness and prosperity all around, including areas which were otherwise untouched by the modern development and modern advancement of engineering and technology. Having said this, let me also say that engineering and technology is not merely a pursuit for those who take admission in ASCET, which means College of Engineering and Technology. Today, Dr. Padma Kali is an engineer because she is looking at what can psychology and psychology sciences can do really now to cause those engineering interventions of the kind which will create happiness, which will create much better mindset tuned to creating optimism and so on. Today, Dr. Arvind Chawla is looking at advancement of technology and engineering from the point of view of stem cell research and create new layers of medical technologies and medical sciences that can create a healthy habitat, healthy people actually around. People with high immunity, people which can be cloned tomorrow if God Almighty permits, so that the goodness can be multiplied, so that the inimical part of human being can be cut down to small limits, so that you do not have the threat of the kind which Ravana posed at that time. All the interventions are possible through the intervention of what we call a stem cell technology and stem cell engineering. Likewise, media science and technology is exerting a very big impact on the society today. And we are seeing its impact and profound impact today through social media. So much of the communication technologies and media technologies are also very, very important. You already have financial engineering, you have financial technology, you have management engineering, you have management technology. Tell me which, you have even legal engineering and legal technology. Which are the areas where engineering and technology is not touched? You already have social engineering and social technology. So really speaking, engineering and technology has an all-pervasive nature. And therefore it covers the entire humanity, no matter what discipline you are pursuing. And therefore interdisciplinary mindset for pursuit of engineering and technology advances, as well as causing these innovations, in my opinion, must now be overscored. They must be underlined as the focus areas, whereby we will pursue in a university like ours, and for that reason, universities around the country and around the globe, engineering and technology with an interdisciplinary, transdepartmental mindset, so that our teams which are engaged in causing innovations and advancement of engineering are not restricted only to those who are pursuing engineering and technology as a domain from the point of view of their studies. And interdisciplinary and transdepartmental pursuit would be very much important. Let me finish by saying that in Amity University, we have taken this as a mission to ensure that Amity University grows stronger day by day, year by year, on the strength of its interdisciplinary environment which we provide, transdisciplinary education as well as research environment which we create, and on the strength of the innovative genius of our highly research-oriented faculty and highly inspired minds of our faculty. We also create synergy between education and research as a vital component of our educational research program, so that the benefit of research could be percolated right down to the classrooms, right down to the undergraduate level. And we also provide tremendous amount of environment within our institutions and within our university campus for learning by doing, so that the innovations can be caused by the younger inspired minds in the company and mentorship of their highly qualified faculty within the university. We also pursue, in fact, our innovation from the point of view of patenting, as well as translating these patenting ideas into the marketable technologies. And that is why patenting of ideas as well as technology transfer and technology marketing is an important area, in fact, for Amity Education Group as a whole. And I'm very happy that in Amity University Gurugram here, research, innovations, patenting, marketing of patenting, and causing, in fact, a bigger impact of patenting on the new advancement of engineering and technology is now a phenomenon. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, may I take this opportunity to extend to you once again a very warm welcome to Amity University Gurugram and its National Virtual Conference on Advancement and Modern Innovations in Engineering and Technology. On my personal behalf, on behalf of my highly innovative genius, Honorable Chancellor Dr. Aseem K. Chauhan, and on behalf of the visionary founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, under whose direction and under whose guidance, the Amity Education Group as a whole, 11 universities within India, 17 campuses abroad, they are all marching ahead with tremendous amount of passion for science, engineering, technology, and innovations, and translating the benefit of our education and research which we do within the university for the benefit of the society, for empowering our nation with a new strength by which we create the India of our dream. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, I extend to you a very warm welcome, and I look forward to highly enriching discussions so that we can check out the directions in which the advancement and innovations of engineering and technology could be targeted to create that beautiful world that is a dream of each one of us. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be with you at the inaugural session. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. We are much obliged to hear your motivational and thought-provoking insights and visionary look. I'm sure no one can sit idly after hearing your words as a thrive to achieve greatness and do good for the Mother Earth sets in. Thank you again. May I now have the privilege of introducing Honorable Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Dean Academics, Amity University, Gurgaon. Professor Padmakali Banerjee is a thought leader and a leadership coach, professor in management and psychology, a doctorate from University of Delhi. She is the fellow of the prestigious Somatic Ink Blot Society. She has over 27 years of experience in research, teaching, consulting, training, and academic administration. Her current research include optimism and well-being, curriculum design, entrepreneurship, and leadership studies. A close associate of corporate functionaries, her forte relates to mentoring, management consulting, and leadership development extending to an array of industries. She heads Center for BRIC Studies, a center of excellence practice, research, and outreach. As the Pro-Vice Chancellor, she has been involved in strategic planning and leads the development and implementation of the university's academic processes. She spearheaded many innovative initiatives, including the introduction of a flexible credit system, industry academic integration, and internationalization. She pioneered the skill development program at the university. Her concepts and contributions on the Indian skill development ecosystem have been widely recognized and acclaimed internationally. She is the recipient of prestigious 2018 Greenville Leadership Award from USGBC for her contribution towards environmental sustainability. She has received Award of Excellence from INSPA, the prestigious Indian School Psychology Association, for her contribution in the promotion of psychology. Her book, The Power of Positivity, Optimism, and the Seventh Sense, published by Sage, is a popular choice globally. Her research model, Paroma, has been registered as a trademark for imparting counseling, education, and training schedule amongst the organization and general public to improve life and abilities. She has developed a psychometric test, Optimism Index, a tool to measure optimism quotient OQ. In her professional career, she has exhibited a passion for entrepreneurship by empowering youth and developing leaders in different walks of life. Her dream is to transform the world into a happier place to live in by instilling hope and optimism in today's youth. With these words, we'd like to request Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor to please commence this occasion with her valuable words. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Charu. And first of all, I welcome each and every participant in this great conference. And as we remember, Sir Vishweshwara and the Bharat Ratna, let us celebrate this whole month. And you'll be all happy to know that Amity, which is a research and innovation driven university, the month of September, we celebrate as a month of innovation, where not only we are celebrating it through a lot of inter-college activities where students are showcasing their talent, but we bring onto the table great patenting ideas, research, publication, and such a great conference. So first of all, let me congratulate the entire team of engineers at Amity on this great Engineers Day. So to each one of you, a round of applause, and wherever you are, all dear participants, you can congratulate all of them that they are making the bridges, not only the bridges that are building between, one building to the other, but bridges that are indirectly bridges to the heart of people. I also remember today because, month of September was the day when, Vivekanand, he went to Chicago in 1893, where he gave his famous speech, and everybody knows about it, talking about unity in diversity. So time has come that, in these years, we have realized that we have been talking about globalization post-1990. We have talked about internet revolution in the mid-90s, where right from when the email came in, and then we saw the fast pace in which the social media took over. When we started our lives with our mobile phone in hand, when we started our lives with interacting virtually. And then again, in 2015, you saw that how this whole world order changed, where we talked about sustainable developmental goals. And we are looking at 17 such sustainable development goals. So my message to the young engineers and the future engineers is, look at those world global goals. What are we going to contribute in? And in all of these sustainable development goals, you will see right from hunger eradication, poverty eradication, good health and well-being, infrastructure development, creating a better sustainable climate conditions. There's a whole lot of plethora of things that, we can be excited about. And there is another message, which I think what COVID brought to us was we realized that how interdependent the world is. A virus like Corona made us believe that, how we are interconnected, and one economy will have a great impact on the other economy. So today we know that within India itself, we are looking at a lot of challenges, economic challenges. We are looking at a lot of avenues where, entrepreneurship come into the being. Earlier, people talked about only creating a new technology as bringing in. Now there is social entrepreneurship, where engineers, science, and arts can get together and bring a solution to the society. So we have to look at the future goals. We have to look at what is India's requirement, what is your community's goal, what is your global goals. So sustainable development goals, I must tell you that it is going to be very critical. And if you look at Amity University, Haryana, you will see not only our infrastructure, we are a green, platinum LEED green certified campus, which is very beautiful. We already are interconnected. If you look at the design of the campus, maybe in our deliberations, Dr. Sridhar may get some time to show you the beautiful campus. We are interconnected. Not only interconnected in terms of the buildings, but we are interconnected in the way our curriculum is delivered. We thoroughly believe in a truly flexible curriculum. So the students who get admitted to the university are getting an option to do large number of minor programs, open elective courses. And I'm very happy to mention that if you look at the new education policy which is on the table, Amity University Gurgaon had already taken lead in creating that kind of flexibility and kind of working together. And similarly, if you look at, many of you may be interested in our centers of excellence. Not only the Center of BRIC studies where Dr. Charu mentioned, we also have centers like Center of Robotics, Center of Stem Cell Research. We have an Amity ACOST, we call it, Ocean and Atmospheric Sciences. So there is a lot of collaborative research that is going on the campus. And I think one of the agenda that we are going to do, we are talking about modern innovations. Innovation itself is new. Innovation itself is novel. And how do you create novelty in those innovations? You can create modernity in those innovations by changing your mindset, changing the way you think, and bringing different expertise. And I would be very happy to mention that in our skill development initiative, we have Dr. Tripathi today with us. We have collaborated with, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, with NICE, and where we are training a lot of people across the campuses. If you look at, we are the way we are located, we're in a hub of industries around us, right from Nimrana, the Japanese hub, to the Bawal, to the IMT Manesar, to Gurgaon, which is the top corporate hub worldwide. People know about it. So there, what we are doing is we are training the people from the industry. We are believing in practitioners program. We have got great interaction with the Ministry of Skill Development. So what I see is, through this, I was going through the kind of abstracts that we have received and large number of entries. So I congratulate each one of you who will be seeing their names and their publication in the book of abstracts, and as well as the publication that you're going to have from this conference. But I want you, don't stop dreaming, because the idea is, every human being has the innate capability to dream, and nobody is going to take it away. But in order to dream, you need to dream with the reality. Dream with the eyes open. Try to understand where are the opportunities, what you can do to create that kind of interface. So connecting with the, one of the things I think our Honorable Vice Chancellor very beautifully talked about technology. He mentioned about the kind of, new areas of research, from artificial intelligence to robotics to stem cell to almost everything, or say biotechnology. Everywhere that you go, or for example, in management, we talk about data analytics, or in mathematics. Wherever we go, you will see a lot of innovation. But one of the secrets that I'm going to tell now, that you have to do things together. Because possibly you need to create a group of, experts who can come and solve a real life problem. Just like we have been struggling to deal with the COVID crisis. So similarly, this is an example of all kinds of chaotic world that we are witnessing. And times to come, the change that we have seen till now, which has been very rapid and fast, you're going to see a very transformational change in the world. And luckily, we are also in a digital era. You see some of the Indian policies have been so great that today, how seamlessly in education we have integrated in a technology platform. So Res very rightly pointed out by the Honorable Vice Chancellor that how, we are doing engineering in everything that we do. Right from the time that you wake up and you pick up the mobile phone, or when you're going into the supermarket to pick up and your bill is coming out through a sense of, where people are communicating and putting things together on your bill, and how you are today using e-commerce. So everywhere there is a science and engineering that is happening. And the message that we have loud and clear from the university, Amity University, Haryana, that here is a place that we believe in innovation, like our most innovative, Chancellor, Dr. Aseem Chauhan, and of course, our most visionary, Dr. Ashok Chauhan, but a person, a visionary with a heart, great heart. He brought into the curriculum long back behavioral science, which makes an individual a good human being, ability to take a rational decision. So there is a lot that we can see at this kind of a conference. So Dr. Sridhara and your entire team, I congratulate each one of you. And I also request our Dean of Science Engineering, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and the entire team of and the eminent directors and dean who have joined here. I can see among the panel, we have very eminent people, including Professor UN Singh, who is the Dean of Faculty of Arts, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, then I saw Dr. Gunjan, then I saw HR, our Director HR, and large number, Dr. Manish Verma from media. So there is a large number of interactions that we can have. So I think I wish each one of you, and especially my heart goes out to each of the students who are participating. You are the future. You are the future that is going to create a great and wonderful world around us. So best wishes to each one of you, and I wish you a very successful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's always delightful to hear you. You are an epitome of encouragement for everyone. Thank you once again for filling us all with a feeling of positivity and optimism through your words of motivation. May I now hand over the proceedings of the session to my co-MC, Ms. Komal Rana. Over to you, Komal.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for being a wonderful host, and a happy Engineers Day to everyone. Let me begin by saying, believe in yourself no matter what you choose. Keep a winning attitude and you can never lose. Think about the destination and don't worry if you stray, because the most important thing is what you have learned along the way. With these words, I would like to have the privilege of introducing our esteemed invited guest speaker, Shri R.K. Vyas, President, Computer Society of India. Shri Vyas has more than 36 years of experience in computer and IT field and has worked in University of Delhi as a senior faculty member and system administrator, involved in various activities of teaching, training, coordinated e-content development of undergraduate courses, software development, identifying requirements and procuring computers, networking equipments and softwares. In University of Delhi, which has large network of more than 4,000 nodes across Delhi in more than 60 colleges and PG departments. He was also involved in the development and supervision of e-content at Institute of Lifelong Learning, University of Delhi, served in National Informatics Center, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India for more than 4 years. A fellow of Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, Senior Life Member, Computer Society of India, Life Member, Indian Science Congress, and Indian Society for Technical Education. He is also a member of Engineering Council of India. Currently, the President of Computer Society of India, which has 70 chapters and more than 800 student branches in IT and engineering institutes in India, having headquarters in Mumbai. He is also the Governing Council member, Chairman Publication Committee, and co-chairman of Technical Programs and Publicity Committee of Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering. Expert member in National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Mr. Vyas has guided a number of research scholars in computer-related research work and data analysis, and has edited many IT-related books and e-books. I extend my regards to you, sir. Kindly deliver your address. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar and happy Engineering Day to all. It's my pleasure to be amongst with you at MIT University, Gurgaon. This is my first talk at MST University, Gurgaon. I have been a frequent visitor at the MIT University, Noida, with the engineering department and the computer application department with Dr. Khatri and Dr. Bansal and other people. I have been involved with them at these stages. I have a proud pleasure here that I am joining today at this seminar on advancement, National Conference of Advancements of Modern Innovation, Engineering and Technology, conducted by MIT University, Gurgaon. And I have a pleasure of talking to you because I have seen the Professor P.V. Sharma, Vice Chancellor of the University, MIT University, Gurgaon, with whose blessings we have been in Delhi College of Engineering also, when Delhi College of Engineering was a part of Delhi University, and I have a pleasure of visiting Delhi College of Engineering during those days when he was the principal, and later on he was the vice chancellor of the university, and we have a pleasure of inaugurating computers branch, student branch of computers. So I must say this is my pleasure that MIT, which is the name and fame all over the country, not all over the country, but outside the country. Some of our friends who has been in other areas of the world, in Southeast, MIT has opened many universities. And MIT University and Engineering Department, Dr. Sridhar and many other faculty members, I am really thankful for them who have given us the opportunity to coordinate with Computer Society of India, one of the leading IT society all over the country, with as already been told, with more than 70 chapters in the country, and we have got 400 student branches across the country. We have been conducting a lot of activities, and I must tell you, during this arena of pandemic, when most of us are unable to work from our own institutions, where we contribute a lot, but we all are contributing for the development of IT and the information technology in various ways through online seminars and online conferences, faculty development programs, and this. Computer Society of India has also conducted more than 300 webinars, faculty development programs, and many other activities, quiz competitions, etc. for the students, for the faculties all over the country, right from Jammu to Kanyakumari and from Northeast. Many students and many of the participants are taking part, and they have been really made knowledgeable through various topics we have been covering at various things. All the current topics which we talk about, smart computing, Internet of Things, quantum computing, edge computing, and many more things has been taken care of. Besides that, we are not lacking on our social responsibility of giving the things like what is the effect of COVID-19 during this pandemic. How do we deal with it? We have arranged talks with the experts in the psychiatry, experts in the medicine, etc., who has been talking about how to come out of a depression if there is any case when we are not working from the office, our own institution or the office. But I must say, IT professionals and the members of the IT computer and the engineering faculties all over the country, I think they have contributed a lot in last 4 or 5 months. None of them, including me, has been left aloof. And we cannot say we are depressed, rather we should always say we are being blessed, and many of the things we have been learning through attending many of the conferences and seminars, which we could not have learned otherwise, because of the physical barriers of traveling across the country. And some of the experts from outside the country were also involved. We have been involving the experts from International Federation of Information Processing and many other areas, which has been conducting conferences and seminars along with us. The role of IT and role of universities like MIT in pursuing the electronics and IT at various levels is immense. And this has been really taken care by all of the professionals in the various universities, and the university like MIT University all over the country, with many of its branches conducting many of the activities and various activities. I have come to know that in this seminar conference also, you have got 150 research papers across the nation. After a review process, many of the papers has been accepted, 69 papers has been shortlisted. And this is really a very good thing, because I feel most of us researchers are getting some time after our own online classes, which has been really on us, but we have successfully came out of those things, and now we have proven for taking the online classes. Tomorrow, I feel some of us will not be able to take the physical classes when we move to the classroom with our whiteboard and the pens, etc. But many of the things has taken care, and hopefully we will have hybrid version of information processing available, and teaching and learning processes will be in the hybrid process. Some of the tasks will be taken online. Some of the tasks will be taken physically in our institution when this pandemic, we come out of this pandemic, and we all are trying to come out of this. The research papers are being conducted in all fields of engineering and interesting in the latest computational and field studies. And I have been seeing that the conference is prepared with the ISBN and submitted to INFLIMNET for various kind of publications which will be coming out after the post conference publications which will be coming out. In case of Computer Society of India, I always feel pleasure that Computer Society of India plays a very vital role in putting all types of professionals across the university. At times, we have certain limitations when we talk about the participation of some of the institutions. When they may not take part in the processes or in the conferences which are being taken in some of the institutions and delegate the institutions together and make them to a single platform where we conduct activities and conferences. We have been conducting activities at state level for students. The regional levels, again, we have got 7 regions, 7 regional conferences are being conducted. Then we have got National Student Conference. Similarly, we have got conferences for professionals and the faculty development programs for professional teachers all over the country, which is being conducted by our chapters in various cities. Currently, we have, as I have already told, we have conducted more than 300 activities, and we have already planned in another 3 months, every state will be having a state student conference, and every region will be having a regional student conference. And finally, we have a national student conference, and we will have a northern regional conference, all the 7 regional conferences for professionals and senior faculty members also. And finally, we have our annual conference today, this year, in the month of February, if all goes well, with the blessings of the gods and with the efforts of our scientists and the corona warriors all over the countries, will be able to beat the pandemic by the month of January or something. So we'll be conducting our national annual conference in the month of February, 15, 16, 17 February in Lucknow, the city of Nawabs. I know MIT has also got a presence in Lucknow, and many of the faculty members and also involved in various kind of processes of preparation of various activities there. So these things, and besides that, I must say, Computer Society of India is always ready to help you, or always ready to take help from you also for the society, for the benefit of the upliftment of the professionals all over the country. And the latest topic of the information technology is being taken care. Similarly, I am also associated with Institute of Electronics Telecommunication Engineering as Governing Council member, Publication Committee Chair. There also we have got a lot of good publications, and the impact factor of the publications. We have a publication in CSI also. There also we prepared research papers. We have got 2 journals in Computer Society of India. Similarly, we have got 2 journals in IET with a very good impact factor and Scopus indexing available there. I invite most of the researchers and the faculty members to contribute of the paper. But I must tell you, the stringent way of assessing the papers is really very rare. So we at times take a lot of time, because our editor-in-chiefs are basically renowned persons from IITs, from JNUs, and many other organizations all over the countries. And we have been associated with them. And these type of research papers, activities, and research activities are being taken through our society, Computer Society of India, and IET at various platforms. With these words, I say I'm really thankful to him. I'm blessed. I can see Professor P.B. Sharma. Namaskar, sir. R.K. Vyas, we met last during Bharati Vidya conference around a month back.
We are truly delighted to have you, Professor Vyas.
Thank you, sir. So it is a pleasure. Yeah. Sir. Sir, we met in the last meeting at Bharati Vidyapeeth conference, one of the conference. And I also blessed with you at Delhi College of Engineering at various times. Thank you. So I hope with your blessings at MIT University, Gurgaon, they have been doing best. And we are also associated now, and whatever bit we could do for the development of the professionals and the faculty members and the students of the university, we will be contributing with our own interest. Thank you very much. Nice talking to you. Namaskar, and again, happy New Year days to all. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We will work with you, and we will work for you to take to enhance the activities and programs of CSI together with our own university. We are committed to work with you. Thank you so much.
Sure, sir. Thank you. We are looking forward for that, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sridhar, and thank you to all the faculty members and the organizer for organizing and allowing us on this occasion. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir, for the encouraging words. May I now take the privilege of introducing our another guest from Computer Society of India, Professor Brijesh Kumar, who is an Associate Dean Academics with Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, Faridabad. He has earlier been the Dean of School of Engineering and Technology with Ansal University, Gurgaon since January 2018. Before this, he was Dean Academics and Dean School of Engineering and Technology with KR Mangalam University, Gurgaon. And during his association of more than 14 years with Lingyas Group, Faridabad, he has worked at various positions, including Director, Head IT, Professor, Associate Dean, Dean Academics, and Dean R&D. Subsequently, prior to Lingyas Group, Faridabad, Dr. Kumar worked with ITS, STG, and TVI. He has got more than 24 years of experience in academics, industry, and research. Professor Kumar completed his PhD in computer science in the area of network simulation from Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra, and has done MTech in computer science and MTech in applied geophysics from Kurukshetra University. Dr. Brijesh Kumar has guided 8 PhD students, has successfully guided more than 24 MTech dissertations. He is a member of various professional bodies and societies, including CSI, IEEE, ACM, ISTE, IAE, and many others. He has successfully conducted 5 international conferences and published more than 60 research papers in various international and national journals and conferences. He has been conducting various faculty development programs and has delivered more than 24 talks and keynote addresses in areas of regional, national, and international platforms. I extend my regards to you, sir. Please
Thank you.
say a few words.
Yeah, sure. Respected dignitaries, colleagues, friends, dear students and participants, a very good morning to all of you. On behalf of Computer Society of India, Gurgaon chapter, I congratulate, and CSI at national level, I congratulate the officials associated with the event and the organizing team. Heartiest congratulations and wish them a good luck for the event. I know a lot of efforts and resources are involved in organizing any event, especially at this time of pandemic COVID-19. But believe me, it's a great learning for everyone. The COVID-19 pandemic has also given us a direction and an opportunity to connect through online platforms. It indicates towards a total shift in the paradigm in connecting for various purposes through a multitude of platforms. Zoom is also one of them. Be it for teaching, learning, business meetings, presentations, or organizing of workshops, seminars, etc. The mobile devices, which was considered to be disruptive technology in the teaching learning process, especially in the classroom, has become one of the most important devices through which we, faculty and students, can connect with each other and a class can be conducted. A few days back, one of my students requested me for a permission to attend the class while he was driving to his grandparents' house because they were suffering from COVID. Anyway, I asked him to concentrate on driving, record the lecture, and shared with him immediately the recording after the class. There are a number of such cases where this new teaching learning paradigm has made it its positive impact as well as negative impact. But we see a lot of positivity also coming because of this happening. Now I can keep on sharing many more such cases, but without taking much time, I would like to congratulate all the team members associated with the organizing the conference and wish everyone a great learning. Wish all of you good health. Thank you.
Komal, please unmute your mic. Komal, please unmute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Brijesh, sir, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. To enlighten us more on this auspicious occasion, may I now take the privilege to introduce our revered guest and keynote speaker, Dr. Arun K. Tripathi, Director General, National Institute of Solar Energy, New Delhi. Dr. Tripathi, in his previous assignments, has worked in various capacities as Senior Scientific Officer 2, Senior Scientific Officer 1, Principal Scientific Scientist F and Scientist G, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India during 1986 and 2017. He has handled several central government major programs and projects. Under his guidance, 4 patents were filed for solar thermal systems, solar cooking and solar cooling developed at NISE. He is a member of various prestigious professional bodies, including Director in Board of Directors of Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency during July 2015 and July 2017, a Fellow of Institution of Engineers India and member in Central Governing Council of Export Promotion Council for EOUs and SCZs. He has implemented 7 R&D projects in NISE on solar energy, hydrogen energy, solar water pumping system, etc. as a PI. He has signed fresh MOUs with 25 national institutions and 5 with international institutions for cooperation and S&T work in solar energy field. He has over 35 years of experience in planning, development and implementation of various renewable energy programs and projects in the country, and over 3-year experience as head of National Institute of Solar Energy, Government of India. Dr. Tripathi has widely traveled all over India, particularly in rural areas, and besides many countries, namely USA, UK, China, France, Thailand, Japan, Germany, Singapore, and Switzerland, etc., on various renewable energy related assignments. Sir, my warm regards to you. Kindly address the audience with your golden words.
Thank you very much, Ms. Komal, for the introduction. सबसे पहले मैं आप सबको इंजीनियर्स डे की बधाई देता हूँ, स्पेशली प्रोफेसर बीबी शर्मा जी, जिनका मैं एक फैन भी हूँ और इनसे कुछ समय मिलने का मौका भी मिला था जब RGPV यूनिवर्सिटी में थे। और मैं यहाँ के सभी फैकल्टी मेंबर्स को, MIT यूनिवर्सिटी के सभी जिन्होंने आज ऑर्गेनाइज किया, डॉक्टर श्रीधर और जिन्होंने मुझे इनवाइट किया, मैं सबका आभारी हूँ कि आपने हमें इस ओकेजन पे इनवाइट किया। मैं आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ इंजीनियर्स डे पे इस फ्लैग को हाई कर रखने के लिए इंजीनियर्स का, जो कि इस कंट्री की बिल्डिंग में अपना काफी योगदान देते हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच टू ऑल ऑफ यू, एंड आई वुड जस्ट स्टार्ट बाय सेइंग दैट ड्रीम इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप। आई ऑलवेज take it that the dream is the first step towards innovation, and innovation can be done with conceptualization. After dreaming, you have to conceptualize, and after conceptualize, you have to think and design, and after design, you have to prepare something, prototype kind of thing, or some if it is a basic R&D, then some protocols and all. And then thereafter you realize your dreams. So this applies in every field of the engineering and technology. And today's national conference is focusing on the advancement of the modern innovations on engineering and technologies. I think after every decade, there is a need for revisiting the research and development which takes place all over the world. And earlier, it used to be 20 years or 30 years when the generation used to change. But today, the generation changes after 10 years, not by age, but by innovations, by new modern technologies. And everybody has to work and go along with these changes. If they don't go, then they are left behind. So with these words, I would like to mention that there are many new technologies and many new tools have come because of the computer age, because of the innovation in technologies, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data analysis. These 3 buzzwords are applicable in every field of the research and development, every field of the progress, be it renewable energy, be it power sector, be it mechanical sector. Every sector, you need the data, you need the automation, and you need the artificial intelligence. So this is a basic tool. These are the basic tools where these tools are applied all over the places. If you permit me, I have a very little presentation since I belong to the sector of renewable energy, and I have spent my all over life towards renewable energy. I started in 1984, And since then, I'm serving this sector. If you permit, I would like to make a small presentation to make the talk a little more interesting.
Sir, we are eagerly waiting for your presentation. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, are you able to see the screen?
Visible, sir. Visible. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, as you can see that the Indian power sector, today the total installed capacity we have 372 gigawatt. And why I am showing this is that the renewable has taken a very lead in this sector. When it started only 4 decades ago. You can see that renewable has reached to 23.78 percentage, and of course solar thermal. Of course, thermal is a leading sector in this still because of the coal. We have the plenty of the coal. Hydro is also at a very large percentage, and if we add this hydro, because this hydro is also renewable. If we had this hydro and the renewable, then the percentage goes much ahead with the after the thermal energy. So renewable energy which has taken place in the country has been only due to the innovations in the technologies, innovations in the research and development which have taken place in the country and all over the world. The studies which have been conducted all over the world in the country shows that we have the capability of more than 1000 gigawatt installation of renewable energy. And these studies are purely based on the survey which has been physically done at many places. You can see that the first is the solar energy, then wind energy, small hydro, and the bioenergy. So these three areas are the major areas which contribute towards the renewable energy development in the country. The renewable energy development has taken place over the last 4 decades, and out of that, this solar energy, wind energy development started in 80s, late 80s. Thereafter, the wind energy took place all over the country, but the solar energy in a bigger way started only after 2010. So you can see that it's only a decade old innovations. Before that, it used to be the off-grid applications, as we heard about the solar cooking system, solar water heating systems, solar street lighting system in an off-grid mode. But in a very large grid mode to contribute towards the power generation in the country, it started only 1 decade ago. And the solar energy, when it came, you can see the generation cost used to be very high, about 17 rupees 91 paisa. But today, because of its economic development, this could be possible only because of the advancement in the technologies and innovations which have taken place in this sector. Today, the solar energy, electricity produced from the solar energy is as competitive as it is produced from the other all conventional sources. And in many areas, it is even less than that. Being a person from the Solar Energy Institute, it's my duty to apprise the August gathering about the latest development which are taking place in the solar energy area. You can see that although at the field level we have achieved the efficiency of 18% to 20%, depending upon the few technologies, but at the lab scale, the achievements have taken place up to 47%. And once these 47% efficiency, I am talking in terms of the cell efficiency, once this 47, if it is realized, even half of that is realized, means if we reach to 25% of the efficiency at the field level, then to a great extent, our requirement can be met through solar energy, even much cheaper rate, maybe the higher half of the rate which you are getting today, and by 24/7 to meet our requirement in this area. So you can see that this could be possible only because of the many labs working day and night to develop the solar cells of the higher efficiency and the low cost. Now, this was about the basic research which are taking place in the solar sector. But after that, we have, because a technology can come out only because of the amalgamation of the research and development, the right policies, and the commercialization of the technologies. And luckily, in the field of solar energy, all these things have taken place within a short period of time of the last decade. The Government of India basically designed this National Solar Mission in 2010, January 2010, it was launched, and few basic schemes were carved to develop the solar technologies on megawatt scale, from kilowatt to, I would say, the watt to kilowatt, and kilowatt to the gigawatt and megawatt scales. And since then, there has been no looking back in the system. And as my first slide I showed, we have achieved 88 gigawatt of the renewable installations, contributing 23% of the total installation in the country, which has the solar as a 35 gigawatt and the wind over 40 gigawatt. And rest are the small hydro and the solar power and the small hydropower. The solar energy sector in the country grew up with these kind of schemes. We had a solar park scheme, we had a VGF scheme, rooftop. You must be familiar with this term. In fact, I got the opportunity to design this rooftop scheme in the country and design the policies for the many states. When there was no regulation and policy, these states came forward to accept the rooftop system, and the net metering, gross metering, and all these policies came. And thereafter, the rooftop, everybody knows, I'm sure that your campus must be having some rooftop in your buildings. The solar park scheme. Solar park scheme is the, I would say that this is one of the very successful scheme in the country. And today there is a demand in more than 120 ISA countries, means International Solar Alliance member countries. So they are also looking towards India for developing such kind of large scale of solar part in their country. And NICE, which is also hosting the International Solar Alliance right now, is also a part of a contributor towards the development of these technology in these ISA member countries. International Solar Alliance is also one of the very flagship development in our country. This is the first international body created by the Government of India, which has 70 signatory members. Signatory members means their parliaments have ratified members, and about 35 members which are yet to ratify, but they have signed the agreement. So solar energy in India is not only taking place in India, but it is spreading its wing. India is spreading its wing all over the world, and it is only because of the innovations in the technologies that took place all over the world and within the country. This solar park scheme, which I will just take a minute to explain this scheme for the August gathering students and the faculty, that the solar park scheme came into being in 2013 or 14, where a target of 20 gigawatt was set. And it was conceptualized that it's not only setting up of establishing the solar panels in the ground. There are a lot of power sector related technology, and the backward and the forward flows are required for making the solar power realization in the modern grids. So a concept of the solar power park was taken, where it was decided that we must have at least minimum 500 megawatt scale installations at a single place. Otherwise, it was very difficult to have their infusion into the grid of the country. So, but it was there was no capability of that a single company or the single place the solar grid power could be installed. So, a solar park scheme came, wherein the government developed the land, provided the developed land, made the all infrastructure facilities by providing the land, by providing the roads, by providing the water and the other required facilities, and also making the power evacuation at the door of the solar power. This was one of the very difficult area where you could have installed the solar power plants, but their evacuation and taking them to the main grid was a big challenge. So it's a contribution from the all the sector of the power, Ministry of Power and the Power Grid Corporation of India, and so on. They also helped in developing the evacuation sector. So that is how the solar power came into the country. But you can see that today we have more than 26,000 megawatt capacity approved, and more than 26,000 megawatt capacity approved, and 1.3 lakh acres of the land has been identified. 82,500 acres land acquired, and this scheme is in a full blooming system is taking place in the country, and the concept has been liked all over the world, and India is also providing a lot of consultancy work and lot of helping work, lot of extending the hands to all over the country. Then after the solar rooftop power scheme, then there is a solar rooftop system. Means you can install the system at the land, and you can also install the system at the roof. When the roof was measured in the country, it was found that we can install more than 40 gigawatt rooftop system all over the country. So this system is very important, which doesn't require the land, which doesn't require the infrastructure facility, and it uses the spare roof all over the country, right from the residence to the commercial sections and the educational sector. This has the advantages that it has a very low gestation time it can be installed, and then it improves the tail end grid voltages, and it reduces the power generation losses, transmission and distribution losses, which takes place because power is produced at the place where it is generated. So rooftop also became very popular, but since there was no regulation available, so the first 3 years, the regulations by the regulators were brought in the country. All the states and UTs came towards the net metering and the gross metering mechanism, and thereafter the scheme became popular all over the country. And today more than 3 gigawatt installations have taken place all over the country. Of course, this could not take in a anticipated manner because the target was about 40 gigawatt. But because of the regulations, because of the so many impedances, this took a lot of time. But today, this scheme is also taking off all over the country. And grid connected rooftop system only has the government support for the residential sector today. When I call the government support, means some subsidy is being given. There are also, when we started, we had the subsidies for the commercial sector, for the institutional sector also, but today it is only limited to the residential sector. And because the generation of the electricity has become so economically viable, I'm sure that all the commercial rates of the electricity are more than 7.5 rupees a unit. Once you can generate about 2.5 rupees a unit at your place, then you have a lot of advantage and very less payback period when you can get your recovery of the installations. Within a period of 3 to 4 years you can get, and then another 25 years you get the free electricity at your place, green electricity, which is also one of the goal of the sustainable development. Now towards manufacturing sector, when we started, there was a lot of impetus on the Indian manufacturers. Good companies were there, but with the as everybody knows, with the I would say the market price went too low all over the world, especially for the Chinese intervention, the solar industries in the country took a little back foot, and the manufacturing capacity could not grow as it should have grown. But today, again, with the current situations, everybody knows the government of India has awakened up and making all efforts to make the manufacturing in the country. Now, many industries are coming in our country, and I think in a very short period of time, many installations for the industry, for the generation of the solar cells and the solar modules, and also from the complete chain, like from ingot, from the wafers, from the ingot to wafer, and then wafer to the solar cell production will take place in our country. Today we have solar cell capacity about 3 gigawatt per year. Of course, some of that is not functional, and it is only after procuring the wafers, not the ingot and making the wafers in the country. Solar module capacity is around 10 gigawatt, but since our requirement is more than these, so manufacturing is the top priority now with the government of India, and many schemes are coming for the manufacturing sector. The government is also linking the installation with the manufacturing sector so that the big companies come and install their power plants. I'll not go much into the detail of the such kind of incentives which are being given by the government, but certainly the fiscal and financial both incentives have made the solar power very effective and the cost effective and economical. The GST in the beginning it used to be 18%, but with the intervention of the ministry and the convincing factors, the GST has also been brought down to 5% for all. In fact, we were advocating for making it 0 for a 5 years time, but at least they have brought it to 5%, and this has also made a system very economical. One of the tools for making the solar power, you have made the solar power, but there are no takers. There were no takers, and to feed the power into the grid, you have a different mechanism in the country, and this mechanism purely depends on the economic and some technical aspects. The DISCOMs, which are the main distributors, which are providing electricity at our home and other commercial places, are the main takers of the power, and it was difficult for them to take the power. They were not at all in a position to take, they were not ready to take the solar power, in spite of being, it was being installed at a very large scale. Then a RPO mechanism, it was thought, these are all the innovations. I say that your requirement always gives a burst to the innovations. The solar power was, megawatts of the solar power was not getting fed into the grid. But then a mechanism was thought, that is renewable purchase obligations. Means the distribution companies are obligated to buy the renewable power. Once we call it renewable power, we divide it into non-solar and solar. So non-solar includes wind and biomass, and the solar includes solar only. So you can see that in the current year of financial year 2021, at least 19% of the total power which is being flown into the grid has to be from the renewable. So this mechanism was very effective. It made the solar power and the wind power and the biomass power and the small hydro power to be given a place into the grid, and thereafter to be bought and distributed by the distribution companies. So this mechanism was notified by the Ministry of Power, and till 21 and 22 the targets have been announced. They have to comply, and if they don't comply, there is a penalty. Which makes them a little financially unviable. So they are also forced, but not it's a question of forcing. They are also willing to take it, because today the solar power has come to a very low prices, and they also get the installation credits through green certificates, and they also all the installations taking place in their state or within the jurisdiction of the distribution companies goes into their account, and they can claim it as a RPO towards the RPO for meeting their targets. The very recently, as you must have heard about the Kusum Yojana of the Government of India, is Kisan Urja Suraksha Evan Uthan Mahabhyaan scheme. In fact, the renewable energy is also a great contributor of development of the rural areas, rural development and the agriculture in the country. And when the large scale power plants were coming, there was a demand from the rural area for also coming up with a small scale power plant. And the agricultural pumps, which are normally, being used through diesel pumping sets, are being converted now into the solar water pumps. It has become a very popular scheme and a very focused scheme of the government. And a new innovation has come recently in this scheme is that if a village has more than 10 or 15 installations of the solar pumps, and normally a solar pump has the 10 kilowatt and the 15 kilowatt installations, and if they can club it together, and after clubbing they can feed the remaining power during the off use hours into the grid. So they get during non-pumping hours they can utilize the solar power into the grid, and this has become very innovative and useful for farmers. And besides meeting their agricultural requirements, they also gain in terms of selling the power to the government, to the near distribution grid which is available in village, and they increase their income. Another scheme for the small solar power plants up to 2 megawatt. It came into being, where the up to 2 megawatt installation can be done by the farmers, where they can install the solar power plant up to 2 megawatt, and in their spare land, not the agricultural cultivable land, but the non-cultivated barren lands, or the borders, or those areas where the cultivation doesn't take place. This scheme has also become very popular, and the agricultural incomes are being raised for the farmers. So this is also giving a lot of contribution towards the renewable development. But the system is not so easy. There are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of barriers, and you have to meet those challenges and the barriers. Challenges are towards cost and availability of land. When it started, it was very less, but today even the land were being given at a very low cost. But since the land became productive for the power generation, the cost of the land became higher in the rural areas even. The grid instability. After a lot of installation of renewables, the grid also has to be stable. And because the nature of the solar and the sun is that at every moment it changes, at every 5 minutes and a 15-minute cycle it changes to a great extent. It is a big challenge to meet the stability of the grid, and this is the challenges before our innovative and the researchers from the university like you and all over the other places to make the grid as stable with the fluctuations in the wind, solar and other renewables. Then higher cost of the funds. This is also an area where the Government of India has to look, and the cost of fund in our country is at a very high rates. Minimum you get the loan at the rate of 9%, not less than that. Even the IREDA, the government's outfit, gives loan to you at 9 to 9.5%. And maximum it can go up to 14% or 15%. This also makes the project a challengeable, and it becomes very difficult for the developer to meet the challenges of the high cost of the fund. Cleaning of the solar panel. This is also one of the very important area where the although it looks a very small, but the cleaning is a very important thing where it needs a lot of water. It needs a lot of potable water or the drinkable water, or so we need to change this this scenario. Waste disposal. Waste disposal is also one of the very important area where we after 20 years or 20 or maybe 15 years, because 8 or 9 years have already passed, you will see a pile of solar panels which are going to be redundant, which are going to be obsolete, and with the innovation of the new technology, which are going to be low power generating panels. They need a lot of proper disposal of the waste system. So in this area, the recycling of the solar panels, recycling of various components of a solar panel, and making the cells out of the reused silicon cells and so on. These are the challenges towards the research and development area, because you cannot bury the solar panel. You have to recycle it and put the different areas into all the parts into different use. In fact, I'm getting little problem in changing the slide. So I'm really sorry to.
You can unshare and then redo it, sir. You can unshare
the
screen and then redo it. It will come.
Okay.
Yeah, it has come, sir. Now you can actually scroll.
Okay. In fact, I am finding some problem.
It is stuck?
Yeah, it is stuck. It's not getting installed. Anyway, I'll not take much time because I've already taken a lot of time. Yeah, it's coming. Cleaning of the solar panel, you can see that it is still being done through the very crude methods, which requires a lot of water. And according to some estimates and the studies which have taken place, 174 cubic meter of the water is required for each megawatt every year. And normally at today's scenario, this water is being expelled out of the ground. It is being taken from the ground level, and which is in some way, sometime it is illegal also, sometime it is not warranted also. So the cleaning of the panel needs an innovative technologies. There are robotic technologies. I think the persons who are interested in the robotics, they can develop this. It has been developed at the many countries. Since there is a huge volume, you can see the pile of solar panels. If you visit a 500 megawatt plant, you will not be able to see the land around you. And it needs the challenge. Cleaning is a big challenge for these solar power plants. Second thing is the module waste. As I told, you can see a very small picture. I am showing it to you that where these things will go once a 1 gigawatt solar power plant becomes redundant after 10 years, and all lakhs of the panels you find that nowhere to dispose them off. So recycling is one of the only area, and innovations in the recycling, research and in the recycling is very important, which all the researcher can take a note of it and concentrate on their work in this area. This is one of the very practically required area. Then how to develop the e-waste management rules. It is also under the formulation. Today, the solar waste is not defined under any category of the waste. Neither under hazardous nor under the municipal solid waste, nor even under the e-waste. So how to make the waste handling rules for the solar panels is an important area where we can also think of, you can also think of, and we can guide to the Ministry of Environment, which are making the rules. Storage is one of the big challenge where you need the storage to make it usable for 24/7. And today the only available technology is the battery. Through batteries, lithium-ion batteries, red oxide batteries, lead acid batteries, these are the only 3-4 areas where this is storage is done. Pumping storage is being tried, but the technologies become a big challenge. So storage is one of the area where all over the world is working, and how to make the storage of the electricity usable in the non-usable time, non-generating time is a big challenge. And we had a tender for inviting the technologies, and you can see that the average tariff with storage of the battery storage and the pump storage has come to something around 4 rupees a unit. 4 rupees a unit is a challenge, and to sell the electricity, distribution company will not be ready to buy at this rate. But for making the field trials, for making the practical applications, these installations are taking place in the country. If anybody is interested from your university, we can put them towards the field, and they can do some kind of research in that area. Then standards and specification. This is one of the area where the contribution from the academicians is required. BIS cannot do everything at their own. We have to develop the standards for each and every installations. So normally the IEC is one of the world level standard development organizations, and most of the standards developed by them are being adopted or have been adopted by the BIS with little changes, with little modifications suiting to the Indian conditions. So these are the standards developed for the inverters, batteries, modules, lighting system. Water pumping, the standard is yet to be developed. It is under finalization with the BIS. Solar thermal areas, many standards are to come. So standard development of the standard is also one of the area where the research and the academics can take place. Then the skill development and training. MIT University is one of the partner in this area where the many trainings are taking place, and the solar technicians training, solar startups training, and NICE is organizing about more than 10 types of the training in the country, where the people are taking trainings, earlier physical training, and now we are also coming on the online board to organize such trainings. And I think we can join hand with your innovative technical team where we can spread it all over the country in a big way. Little introduction about the National Institute of Solar Energy, which works on the area of research and development. It is not an academic institution because many demands are coming that why don't we make it an academic institution, provide the degrees and all. I personally feel that there are many innovative institutions which are expert in this area like your university, but they can utilize the infrastructure facilities available at this institution for research and development, for your PhD students, for your MTech students, and testing of the solar equipments, standardization, making the standards, specifications and guidelines, entrepreneurship development, innovations. So we concentrate on all these areas rather than academics. And we have the agreement with the DTU, with the your university, with like IIT Delhi and other areas, where the students get registered and they can come over and work in our institution and get their PhD level research done here, or even after PhD they can do the PD postdoctoral fellowships, they can do it here. So these are the areas where NICE is working, and few new technologies with innovations have been developed in the country by NICE, and these technologies have been commercialized also. So it's a complete chain of concept development and commercialization have taken. Today, just an example of this solar dryer system, which have been installed in a big way, is being installed in the Leh and Ladakh area, where the apricot drying is a very important fruit activity. And this, the challenge of this activity is that it remains only for 30 to 35 days. And thereafter, if it is not dried, it rottens. And the cost of a dried system, there's a huge difference between the cost of a raw apricot and the dried apricot. Maybe the raw apricot is sold only for 100 rupees a kg, but the dried apricot is sold for the 800 to 1000 rupees a kg. So it gives a big boost to them. NICE worked with them for 3 years, developed a special dryer for them. And this was installed 10 dry system we put up in their Leh and Ladakh region. And after studying for 1 year, we came with the complete robust prototype system. And the government of J&K is installing 300 system. And NICE has been given the complete responsibility for their installation. So NICE for the first time has come in a very commercial venture also. And you can see that it was also inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister in the Vigyan Bhavan in 2018 during some exhibition. The solar water ATM, it is a independent of the grid system where you can put the card and get the water, the drinking water. Earlier, NICE used to buy the drinking water because we have in Gurugram, you know that we have the salty water all over the places. Earlier, we used to buy the water and spending more than ₹1 lakh a month for feeding the institute. So we developed this system in association with an industry, and we installed in our place. And today we are saving that money. What we are doing is that only buying the bottles, putting this water, packing it here and supplying in the institute itself. So we have become a self-reliant in this, and we have installed this system in Safdarjung Hospital and a village and a civil hospital in Gurugram. And this technology can be taken up, it can be installed by you, you can proliferate it, you can make more innovations into this, make it more computerized. And this is one of the very available technology which can be taken up. Very recently, we have taken up a village, this is Faridpur village. I think it could be a little near to your university also, where we are installing a 30,000 liters capacity RO based system. We have rather installed and the efficacy trials are being taken place. And this system will provide the piped drinking water. This village is bringing the water from about 5 to 10 kilometers away from different places. And we find that this village was selected, and today this village is being self-sufficient, and we would be charging, I think, not more than 5 rupees for a 20 liters bottle to make it completely commercially viable. It was a project which was given by the Department of Science and Technology, but it has become so commercial that it can be taken up further. And I would invite the faculty and the students of your Amity University to visit this and suggest us for more changes, innovations, and so on. Then the solar cold storage. This is a technology which was completely designed and developed at NICE, of course, in association with the industry. In fact, NICE believes in development of the research for applied as the basic with the association of the industry, because they have their own other expertise. NICE has its own other expertise. If we both meet together, it meets their challenges, and it makes the system commercially viable, because it helps in commercially making it viable. And these all technologies have been patented by NICE. Now, some pictures with this, I'll not take much time. Some pictures of the installations all over the country of water heater, solar park. You know, this Charanka solar park was the first solar park of 460 megawatt. It was developed at the Charanka village in Gujarat. So Gujarat we always say that this park gave us the opportunity for developing the scheme, and the experience also was utilized. You can see some installations of the solar areas. It has in the hospitals, in the institutions, in the metros, all over the place. You can see that today the renewable energy and the solar energy have gone into the field. And another innovation is the solar parking. You can see in the Medanta hospital, if you happen to visit. I don't wish that you visit that hospital, but from academic point of view, you can visit the hospital. You can see that the innovative solar parking has been made with the 500 kilowatt system in the park, and it saved their civil structure, and it provided them the electricity. You can also innovate these things in your place. And Solar City Chandigarh, if anybody is from Chandigarh or they have happened to visit the Chandigarh, Chandigarh, we started working with this city in 2013, and the total requirement of this city is about 360 megawatt of the power. And then we decided that at least 10% of the power requirement would be met from the solar installations. And the administration and the policy and the department came so forward that today you can see that right from the residence till all the engineering colleges, many institutions, hospitals, government buildings, colleges, hostels, they have a complete installation of more than 10 megawatt, more than 10%, means 36 megawatt plus all over the city. So we have named it this as a solar city, and this is the first kind of solar city in the country. This concept has been used in the smart cities, 100 smart cities which are being done by the government of India. You can see the metro. I remember the day when I used to go to the metro and metro authorities and used to convince them about the solar utilization in their metro stations. But I remember the day when I was not even given a hearing to my presentation. But after some time, we convinced them, and today Delhi Metro is one of the biggest utilizing this solar power. Not only the on-site applications, but the off-site applications. In fact, in a Reva, we installed about 750 megawatt solar power, and Delhi Metro made a complete contract from them to buy their power for meeting their power requirement to make a green metro in the country and set an example for the world. This is one of the largest solar rooftop installation in our country, not our country, of the world. Because at a single roof, the installation of 12.4 megawatt capacity is nowhere in the world. So India has pioneered today in the largest installation of solar rooftop system and the largest installation of solar power system. Today we have 2,500 megawatt single installation at a solar park in the country, which is also largest in the world. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity for sharing some of my experiences and making the little more towards the solar innovations and the solar power developments. I feel some of your faculty members and the students might get inspired of it and they come forward. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was really eye-opener for many of us. Thank you very much for coming here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing such useful insights with all of us.
Thank you.
May I now request all the honored delegates and panelists to kindly switch on their video cameras so a group photograph can be taken during and after the release of conference proceedings. I would now like to request all the honored dignitaries to kindly facilitate the virtual release of conference proceedings and book of abstracts.
The book of abstracts and the proceedings have been virtually released.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you all. We have now arrived at the closing of our inaugural session of AMIET 2020. I would like to once again thank all the dignitaries and esteemed guests for apprising us with their valuable words. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the wonderful presence of all other attendees. It is indeed a pleasure to have you all here today, and we hope that this conference will lead to greater foresightedness and deeper insights into the studies of technology and contribute to further technological developments. We shall now have a break and will resume the technical paper presentation at 12:35 on MS Teams platform to be held in 9 virtual rooms in parallel. Please join your virtual room 5 minutes before the schedule. Thank you all for joining us.
Once again, request all of them to please switch on the video camera so that we will take some photographs, please. All the delegates, please.
डॉक्टर त्रिपाठी साहब का धन्यवाद करूं कि उन्होंने अपने व्यस्त समय में से समय निकाल करके हमें इतना अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन दिया I was looking at every single slide presented, and I'm really delighted that our solar mission had done much better than what it was initially planned. In fact, we have gone far beyond our initial targets, and the challenges for tomorrow have also been very well sketched out by Dr. Tripathi ji. And I'm sure during the course of this conference also, some of these challenges will be reflected in terms of the innovative ideas and product which will be showcased. We are really very happy to have you here, sir, and we look forward to strengthening our further cooperation and collaboration with National Solar Mission and especially with National Solar Institute.
Thank you, sir. I always look forward to meet you, sir.
Our great pleasure and honor. Thank you. Please.
Thank you all. Thank you, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Honorable Provost Chancellor, ma'am. Thanks to all the directors and HOIs for this inaugural session. Thank you very much. Thank you, one and all.
Thanks.
Thank you all.